Hey guys, it's Phil with Razorback Tactical. Today we're going to be talking about the brand new Tango Enos Fire 4000 with the applied ballistics technology inside of it. I got this brand new about a month ago from Dope Ballistics Company for about $1,400 with no sale, no discount code, just straight off the block. So I'm really giving you a straight unbiased video. Hope you like it. If you do, we have loads of more content. This will be a two-part series. Part one will get into all of the buttons, how to set up your Tango's Fire 4000, how to link it to your phone with AB onboard or AB external. And then in the second video, we'll go into how do we actually set the weapons mounted laser rangefinder up onto the rifle? How do we zero it and calibrate the center of the scope to the center of the actual laser rangefinder itself? And then we'll talk about how do we actually use this in a real world scenario. Okay, so first and foremost, I want to talk about what this unit is and what it is not. It is a weapons-mounted laser rangefinder. It will give you the range, and if you put everything in correctly, it will give you the right data because it does have applied ballistics on board, which its competitor, the Vortex Impact 4000, did not. The Vortex utilized geoballistics, which was the biggest gripe of most people. However, what this does not have is an onboard compass, nor does it have onboard weather meters. So it does not have onboard temperature, pressure, or humidity sensors, or a compass that the Vortex Impact has. However, this unit will utilize things like the AB Boss or the AB Quantum app or the Applied Ballistics family of things such as the Kestrel 5700 Elite or some of your Garmin products out there on the line to gain those functions and do the research and give you the right answer. So again, that's what it is and what it is not. All right, so the first thing we're going to do in this video is give you a brief overview. So here we've got our keypad, we've got our on and off and our laser rangefinder switch, we've got our visible laser button, we've got our yards, meters, we've got our display, and we've got our time for auto time on and off button. They also do a few additional things which we'll talk about later. We've got our LCD or liquid crystal display screen. We've got our Picatinny mount. We've got our unit number or our serial number here. Our battery cap, which can be fitted with a quarter nickel or anything like that. A nice little dummy cord to keep that attached. That enables one CR123 3-volt lithium battery. We've got our external firing remote switch plug-in. And then here on the front, we've got our visible laser for zeroing up in the top center. We've got our laser emitter here. And then we've got our laser return finder here. Okay, so pushing out laser rangefinder energy here and returning it through this one here, but we're zeroing it with the top center one here. We have our up visible laser adjustment, and we have our left and right as well. Okay, so now that we've got that discussed, let's get into how to use it. All right, next we're going to show you how to use the Fire 4000 in Applied Ballistics internal or ABI mode with your AB applications. All right, one of the first things we need to do to get this unit set up to run Applied Ballistics internally is to download the Applied Ballistics AB Synapse Boss app. Find it in your app store, whether you got Android or Apple. Download it. It doesn't take long at all. Once you get it downloaded, go ahead and hit open. you've got to read through and confirm the agreement, accept it, and then from there you should be good to go. Now, before you can actually link to the Tango 4000, you need to allow the boss to accept the location. So I do it while it's using the app, hit allow, and now I can pair the device. I can hit select device, it's going to search for a unit. Be mindful that this has turned off, so I need to turn it back on. It's back on, and now it should find the device. Found it. A serial number is going to pop up. If I want to confirm it, I can confirm it here. I'll select it, and it's going to say, hey, look for a pin. So now at the bottom right, you can see a pin pop up, and the pin number is 83. So I'm going to do on my phone, after I change the focus back, is type in 83. Okay. And then continue. Now from here, that brings us up to the Applied Ballistics or the AB Boss HUD, and it's asking me, hey, do you want to do an update for the Ballistics library? We got a Burger 308, 245 grain, and some other good stuff. Absolutely, let's take it. Download, and as you can see, it doesn't take long at all. So next, we're going to talk through the HUD and how to actually set this up for your weapon system. All right, now that we're within the heads-up display with the HUD, let's talk about a few things. First and foremost, this is an Applied Ballistics application. So if you're familiar with the AB Quantum app, then this is going to look very familiar to you. Also, if you haven't heard the news, they're looking at shutting down the AB Boss Synapse app in about 2 weeks, and this will reside within the AB Quantum app. You can determine if you are ready to use this app by simply hitting the devices in AB Quantum, going up to information, and then from information, you should get a drop down of all the things that are in there. You don't see the Fire 4000 in there now, but here in about 2 weeks, we should see that populating. But talking about the Synapse Boss app, the first thing you see is your active licenses. I've got the AB Elite. You may have the Applied Ballistics WES, Weapons Engagement Zone. You may have the X, or you may just have the AB software. If you have a Kestrel with WES or X or Elite, you can automatically get redemption for those, so you don't have to buy it, or you can just upgrade it in the AB Quantum app if you don't have that in your Kestrel. Going down, you've got your gun data, which we'll build that out here in a few minutes. And then you've got your firing solution controls. From here, you've got your elevation and your windage, your range and your wind speed, which is easily adjusted here. From there, we've got heading, which is really cool because if I'm just using my phone and it's internal GPS, I can click the button and it's telling me that it's 12.6 degrees, which is pretty accurate. If I move it over just like this, it's going to be closer to 0, which is 360, or 0 would be north. Now, the next thing you see is inclination. So on a flat surface, I'm reading negative 0.04, and that's simply because of the Android and the way that their phone is. But if I was to elevate this up and hit that button again, it's going to tell me that the angle inclination is negative 24.3. So really cool. From there, I can hit pressure. It tells me station pressure or barometric pressure being 30.2, and then local temp. Unfortunate thing here is it doesn't usually tell you what your temperature is. However, you can hit the weather button here, and it will give you a last known reading of 37 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm going to go back to the hub. The last thing in your quick functions is your wind direction. If the wind is coming from the right at 3 o'clock, you can simply tap it, and it will say the wind is coming from the right. And if it's coming from the 12, you can tap that, and it'll say it's coming from 12 to 6. So it's very easy, and you can, again, change your wind speed in miles per hour there. And if you don't want it to be miles per hour, you can change that more ways by going into settings and doing some other stuff. Now, this is not going to work effectively unless we make a gun profile. So what we need to do is notice that you can't just tap this and update things. So we have to hit the edit button. And then from here, it's telling us, hey, this is the bullet data that we're going off of. This is straight up standard out of the box what it looks like. So if I click that, nothing happens. If I click user gun 1, now it brings us into essentially a gun menu. Basically like a Kestrel, I can build my gun. Now, Again, it's starting us off standard with a G1 profile. I don't want to use that. I want to run a G7, and it's auto-calculating it to make it a 0.243. You can see it's a 308 and a 175. So for the military guys, you might see that and be like, oh, perfect, that's exactly what I need. A 308, 175 Sierra Match King or SMK is 0.243. Fun fact, it is no longer 0.243. The AB Ballistic software now reads a 308, 175 SMK as a 0.241. And there's two ways you can check that. The legacy way was to go to the Applied Ballistics app and go into your profiles. And I always use the AB app because I'm an AB Kestrel guy. All right, from here, we'd be able to go into bullet library and find a 308 bullet, scroll down to the manufacturer, in this case, Sierra, and then scroll down to the weight and type. So I said at 175 Sierra Match King, that is 175 SMK here. I want a G7, and as you can see now, we've got a 0.241 G7. So that was a legacy way that I always put a G7 BC or a G1 based off of the Applied Ballistics library and not a Quantity or any other library. But what's really cool is in the new AB Synapse boss set, you have the same bullet library that you can choose and utilize the same way. Again, 308, and find Sierra, 175 SMK, G7, and like I said, we got 0.241. So really cool, same thing, just in a different application. But if you understand one, it's really easy to apply to the other. So that is our bullet, and here we can go into zero range, zero height, zero offset, same thing. If you don't understand that, go in and check out our Kestrel class. Rate of twist, running a 1 in 10. Muzzle velocity, we can true this or we can type it in. So if you know this is say we know it's 2670. I can put that in. Height, that is going to be from the center of your bolt face or the center of your muzzle to the center of your optic. And I'm running a 2.75 bore height or scope height. And then really we got vertical and horizontal sight scale. I'm going to leave these at 1.0 because I'm not noticing a shift with the glass that I'm running now. Now, if we want to do a muzzle velocity temperature table, we can build that in right here. So let's say we zeroed our gun, we chronoed it, and we knew that our velocity changed from 30 degrees Fahrenheit all the way up to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. If we have a good chronograph, we could simply track our changes with this temp table. Simply putting in the temperature here, and a temperature along with the velocity that we're getting. And then from there, whenever your Fire 4000 reads a temperature or density altitude, it will understand based off of that data what your velocity should be coming out of the tube. Now, if we want to go a little bit further, let's say we didn't have a chronograph, we could do a true. Meaning we could find the velocity of our bullet at Mach 1.2 or the transonic range of the bullet in flight. Just like we do it in a Kestrel, we can do that in here to include DSF. So if we want to figure out what our bullet is doing at the subsonic range of flight beyond Mach 1.0, i.e. Mach 0.9, 0.8 and beyond, we could put that in right here. I'm not going to go deep into that right now, but additionally, what I want to show you is if you hit the settings button, here you can change your units of measure. So let's just say that you're a MOA guy versus a mils guy. Well, you could simply tap mils or MOA and it would update that. And if I turn on the Fire 4000 and put that here, you'll notice I'm going to change the focus. When I change this from mils to MOA, it's automatically going to change it in the Fire 4000. And if you notice, it transfers extremely quickly. So pretty cool. Same thing, if you want to change any of these units, you can do it right here in the settings menu and auto-populates it inside of the Fire 4000. That is how we'd set up a gun. So again, we got to give it a BC, bullet data, we've got to give it the velocity, and the zero range, twist, and scope height. Once we have those things, we can hit back. But if you notice, you can score numerous profiles in here. It's saying 1 through 25. So Kestrel holds 30 guns, and what I see on here is 25 guns. So really cool, and I could easily flop through guns. So I'm going to leave it on gun 1, and I bet you if I wanted to, I could go in and name this gun, and I'm just going to call it Class 308. All right, let's go back to the HUD now. Now that we've talked about building a gun, let's go in and check out the weather. The first thing to understand is that the Fire 4000 does not have onboard weather instruments like temperature, pressure, humidity, so on and so forth, that the Vortex Impact 4000 does have. It's not a big deal though, because it can pull data in ABI mode directly from your phone. You can get data from a local weather station, or you can manually input it from something like a Kestrel and a handheld weather station. With that being said, the first thing you see is the wind direction and wind speed. I shoot 308 a lot, so I'm going to keep it at 3 o'clock and 4 miles per hour. If you're out west and you're shooting a lot in higher winds, then maybe you want to put that as your average wind speed or your gusting wind speed, whatever makes sense to you. But put that in there, and then from here, you can see weather source. So you can put this in manually from something like a Kestrel, or you can hit the internet button, and as you can see, it will automatically pull stuff directly from a local station via the GPS that's in my phone and the permissions that you gave this application. So it's saying it's 57, it's clear, I've got the pressure and humidity, and good to go. So I went outside and checked the environment on my Kestrel just a second ago, and I just want to show you what this is saying. It's saying temperature was 63, so we're only 6 degrees off. It was saying pressure is 29.99, so we're 0.01 off, which is perfect. Relative humidity, 11% off. Ultimately, that does not matter with humidity. I wouldn't worry about it, especially in this temperature. But it's pretty close, not enough to miss your target, especially out to 1,000 meters. Next, we go down to altitude, and again, we can input this manually, or we can do it just by simply hitting the button and letting the phone know where we're currently at. It'll pull the altitude. From there, you've got your target screen, and like I showed you in the HUD, the heads-up display, you can pull the heading and the inclination simply by hitting these buttons. But if you're in a weather mode and you're aiming at your target, you aim at your target, and if I go down and hit take measurement, it will pull all those at one single time. So I think that's pretty cool. Obviously, the one thing that it's not going to give you is the target speed, because I don't know of anyone's phone that's got a Doppler radar on it. But yeah, it's got that in there. All right, so that is the weather. And again, just like the gun setup menu, you can change certain things here, especially like inches mercury or whatever you might want to see. So it depends on where you're at and what you're used to reading. You can update some of those things. Cool? All right, now that we've talked about the weather, let's dive a little bit deeper between ABI and ABE mode. All right, now let's talk about some things to consider whenever you're running this product. Whether you're running an ABI or ABE, meaning, again, applied ballistics, internal or external, I'm going to give you some things to consider. Whenever the unit is turned on, the last thing that you range will populate here in the yards. And your wind and all that stuff will apply to that. Now, if I turn this off, what you're going to see is it's going to go back to a different number. 2.94 and 0.12. That is going to be based off of the most bottom target on your target card. Okay, so if I go in here and I change the wind speed, it will update. All that good stuff will happen. And additionally, if I go into the weather screen and scroll down to the bottom to movers, speed, and this is say I plug in as soon as it'll let me. I'm going to plug in 25 miles per hour here. All right, if I go back to the HUD, notice it's putting that in my lead. So if I turn the wind all the way down to 0, just for you to see, at, again, the most bottom target, 500, 2.94 mils of elevation, it's saying the lead for a 25 mile per hour target is 16.88 mils. Now, if I was to turn this back on, that's going to change back to the last thing that it ranged with the Fire 4000. Additionally, if I was to go out and range something, let's just say I range down the hall, I got 7 yards, Now that I've got 7 yards, I've still got in here 25 mile per hour on my mover. Now at 7 yards, your movers aren't a big deal, but I've confirmed this at extended ranges is at least 500. And the lead or the mover down here for your target speed does not apply to your wind in the ABI mode. You'll also not do it in the Kestrel ABE mode. You must scroll down to the lead to figure that out. Additionally, what I think is interesting is they put a target speed in here, but you can't find your lead in the target card. There's nothing for lead or the range card. And even if you hit the settings button, nothing pops up about a lead. So interested to know why they put that in there. But if you want to know what your lead is, again, all you simply have to do is turn your firing unit off, range it, and your lead will pop up in windage. If you have your wind turned to 0, you can figure out which lead is. So it's kind of a backwards way of doing it. But if you don't have a Kestrel and you need to know your lead, that's one way you could figure it out, I suppose. All right, next up, understand that this unit, when it's turned on and in ABI mode, it always accounts for spin drift and aerodynamic jump based off of what you put in the gun build data. In this case, we've made a 1 in 10 with a right-hand twist. So this gun data, with whatever speed we put in, it's always going to adjust the elevation based off of aerodynamic jump, the bullet's vertical deflection from wind, and spin drift will always be applied to the wind. There's no way to turn that off in this app. I was lucky. I called Tango Enos and talked to one of their tech and design engineers, Ruben, and he was very beneficial at helping me understand that and confirm it. But again, spin drift and AJ are always turned on, and you cannot turn it off in the AB Boss Synapse app. Kestrel is a different story. You can turn it off. Let's move on down. Because the Fire 4000 does not have a compass within it, notice it didn't ask us to do any compass calibration, then every time we shoot, we need to update the heading. And we can do that via this button right here. We can just simply point it at the target and update the heading, and that would change the elevation within the Fire 4000 and the app. Now, with that said, you don't necessarily need to change your heading every single shot. Unless you're shooting out at a pretty extended range, roughly the transonic range, or even a little bit closer, it's not that big of a deal if you're only shifting a direction of fire by a few degrees, But if you're shifting from 0 degrees direction of fire or heading all the way back to 180, or vice versa, then it's a good rule of thumb that you should be updating it. So again, keep that in mind. You need to update in here, and the important part about that is you need to update the heading before you take the range. If I take the range and then update the heading, it's not going to solve for that problem because it's already solved based off of what you gave it. So ensure you do the heading before you do the range. The next thing is if we're doing a temperature and environmental update. If I pull this from the internet, then it's only going to be as accurate as a local station near me. So if I'm out in the middle of nowhere, it may not be as precise, but it's still going to be pretty good. All right, and again, lastly, expect this app to be shut down in about 2 weeks. So I think the Quantum app will be a little bit better. Not a dig at this by any means, but it's got a few things that I don't quite understand. Again, if you've got the unit turned off while you're working within here, you can see some stuff, but the moment you turn the unit back on, that stuff changes. So don't be alarmed if you're trying to figure out what's going on and compare it to your Kestrel. It's not going to be perfect because the Kestrel is accounting for certain things, or those certain things are turned off, and this thing is accounted for. Okay, so next let's talk about the ABE. So if I hit the M yards or meters button and I long hold, I'm going to change this to ABE mode. Now, if I turn on my Kestrel, the first thing you should consider is if I was to go and range this, so say I range it over here, I got 7 yards. 7 yards, notice it didn't do anything in my Kestrel. So that's your first consideration, is when you turn your Kestrel on, To link it to your Fire 4000, you need to go back to your system settings, Bluetooth, go down to Device Connect, and it should start searching. A lot of times what I've found is it will sit there and search. If you just change from ABI to ABE, it's go ahead and do a power cycle, power off, power on, and then you'll see it'll quickly find the device and connect. All right, and now you can see that it's connected, says it there on the Kestrel. So now when I go back to the ballistic screen and I range something, you're going to see your next consideration of how close can you range something to get an elevation. I believe the closest that you can range is 25. I found that 50 and on is not a big deal, but anything super close, it's not going to populate. But if I was to go out and say range something at 100 yards or so, no problem, it's going to range it and it's going to be good to go. Unlike the ABI, the ABE mode allows you to go in and turn off certain things. So if I go into my environment and I take my spin drift and I turn it off, and my AJ and I turn that off, then it will be off inside the Fire 4000. If I have them on, it will be on inside the Fire 4000. So that's your next consideration to keep in mind. Again, just like ABI, this does not have a compass calibration or a compass at all. So before we range something and get a range to it, we need to look at our target, and we need either do a capture of direction of fire, or we need to manually input the direction of fire here, right? But you want to make sure that you get a good, accurate direction of fire before you range, because if I range and then update direction of fire, it's not going to compute or solve for that problem. So update your heading before you do that. Same thing, wind. If you are doing wind at 3 o'clock, then you can either capture the wind direction and speed, or you cannot, but just understand that it's going to solve for what you put in the Kestrel, not what it sees. It's not sensing wind downrange. It's sensing what you're telling it in the Kestrel. So understand that and make sure you put it in there correctly. Another thing is if I go into target, and if I go down to target speed TS, and you can see here I've got it on 25 miles per hour. I'm going to go real quick and I'm going to make this range of target at 100 yards or so. And I'm going to just confirm to you that it's not pulling the lead into the wind. Okay. All right. So I just ranged the target at 120. And as you can see, it's got a 0.2 down and a 0.9 right sitting inside of the Fire 4000. Now, as I told you, it's not pulling the lead. And just to confirm that, I'm going to go down in the Kestrel, down a range card at the same range, 120, and it's telling me the lead should be 14.35 mils. So if it was computing that, it would say it here in the windage screen, but it's not computing that. So again, keep that in mind. It doesn't matter if you're running ABI or ABE, it's not giving you the lead inside of your wind, regardless. All right, the last consideration for the Applied Ballistics external linked up to your Kestrel is the fact that when you range a target, it does not give you the time of flight and the muzzle velocity at the bottom of the screen like it gives you on ABI. It may be a big deal for some of you if you're trying to do things like shoot movers and you want to know time for mils moved in a second times time of flight to get your lead. Others, you may not really care about too much. You may just realize that, hey, this gun is roughly 1 second around 650 meters, and it's roughly 2 seconds at X range. You may just have it memorized, so it may not be a big deal. You also don't have the muzzle velocity on there, or not the muzzle velocity, but the remaining velocity. Again, it may not be a big deal. If you want to know what velocity remains at that range, sure, I guess it'd be cool to know, but I don't think it's really a need to know. What I do have an issue with is that they marketed this as saying it's got time of flight and remaining velocity on the screen, and they didn't say it was only for ABI. So hopefully it's just a bug or a glitch within the current AB Boss Synapse app, or whatever software package they have on there, and hopefully it's an upgrade we can easily download via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. When the AB Quantum app takes over the AB Boss Synapse, maybe that will fix things, maybe it won't. Either way, I wish it was there, or if it is not there, I wish they'd at least fill in the gaps with something like a bubble level. If there was some sort of cant in this thing, that would be great. If I didn't need a send it scope level or an additional scope level on my thing, if everything could be captured here, that would be great. But as of right now, it's just an empty spot not being utilized. Things that I would like to see in the future of the Fire 4000. First and foremost, I would like to see some little notches right here, similar to a what you'd find on binos for dummy cording a lens cap. Something like a 100 Concepts lens cap would be great on here, but I don't really see anywhere where you could put it on. Talking with some of their team and their engineers, it does sound like a 3D printed cap will be coming in the near future for not only the objective lens side of the house, but also the LCD side of the house. But that would be one thing I want to see. The next thing I want to see is we've only got 3 display modes for power, and it's a bit too bright for nighttime settings if you're running it for coyote hunts or whatever it may be. So I'd like to see a lower nighttime setting for the display. I would also like to see an incorporation of cant. If this thing could tell you when you're canted more than, say, 1 degree left, 1 degree right, and bang on, that would be awesome. Even if it was something as simple as, hey, you're 5 degrees left, you're 0 cant at all, or you're 5 degrees right, I think that'd be great. I don't think they need to have colors like the Send It, but it would be cool to have that in there. The time of flight would be great to see on ABE mode. I'm not 100% convinced that I need it, nor do I think I need the remaining velocity in there for the ABE mode, but it would be cool to be able to have that. All right, again, part 2 of this video, we're going to take this unit out to the range, show you how to mount it to your optic, how to zero it, and how to utilize it in live fire conditions. I appreciate you for sticking with us. If you like this, hopefully go ahead and hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and remember, we have a bunch of videos just like this to include the 7-part Kestrel Masterclass video within our Razorback Tactical Team Room. The link to that, as well as the link to all of these products, will be below in the description. Again, I appreciate you for sticking with us, and we'll see you on the range.